So when Neanderthal was alive, and that was who was on the planet, they didn't speak. As I understand it, they did like sign language. And then there was a mutation in the 12th gate of, and that's where the larynx is. And the voice box or the larynx actually did what's called dropping. I don't know exactly what that means, but that's how Ross says it. It dropped. And then humans, who now we call, I guess, Cro-Magnon, or I don't know, could speak. Like there were people and they couldn't speak, and then there were people and they could speak. Like that's a big difference. And so what's happening in 2027, or basically now, is to the same extent as that, that the people who are going to be born that we're calling raves are as different from us as Cro-Magnon was from Neanderthal, who could speak and who couldn't speak.
Mhm.
That's what we are in the midst of. That is what is happening now on our planet. And the precursors to the raves who are coming is what we are calling at this point neurodivergent. You know, people who are just wired differently. And, you know, as far as I can tell, most of us have something of that. You know, and some of us are more highly functional with it than others. Um, what I have noticed is that the more I become myself, the less I am able to, for example, strategize. You know, it seemed like I could almost strategize back when I just put everything I had into it. But now as I become myself, my mind just is like, no, that's not me. I'm not doing that anymore. I am
Yeah.
not going to do the absolutely painful thing that it takes for me to be strategic. So instead of doing that, I call D&Es and I get them to help me.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding about that.
No, I know. Great smart.
So what
The
I'm,
Hanbi Dandy strategist.
you know, so one of the things we saw is that we had this pandemic from which we are never going to be the same as we were before it. Like, who knew that was going to happen? But that seems to be part of what has happened. And what I have been given to understand, I was actually, you know, I do this very deep inner visioning and look at things through my inner vision. It's my cognition for my personality. And so it is with Hanale. And she and I were talking back and forth a few months ago and doing some inner visioning together. And her sun gate is the gate 30, which is the gate of the fates.
Mm.
And she asked me something, and my response was to talk to the fates, right? Okay, I'll talk to the fates, see what they have to say for you, right? It just opened up this whole thing where then the fates started talking to me, at least what I am interpreting as the fates out of that experience. And what's interesting about the gate 30 is that the there's the root and the three gates that are pointed to the emotional center from the root are pressurizing the emotional center, and they want to fix it. They want to stop the wave. There's the 30, the 55, and the 49, right? So the 4130, the 3955, and the 1949 are those three channels that go between the root and the emotional center.
Mhm.
Two of them, the 55 and the 49, those are both the histidine codon, they are mutating right now. They are mutating right now. That codon, that amino acid is mutating, the 55 and the 49. And the 59 is, I mean, the 55 is kind of the front runner of that because in the 64 evolutionary steps, we've reached the 55 in our evolution. Okay. The one that's not mutating is the 30. And what I saw with the fates is the fates actually hold us in their hand. The fates hold life in their hands. They hold the experiential way in their hands. you know, and it's like, so there's the 41, which is the start codon of the whole shebang. And it's specifically the start codon of the human experiential way, which is in that whole stream, the 41 to the 30 to the 36 to the 35.
Mm.
So the 41 is it's the fantasy, like anything you can imagine is possible. And the teaching we get about the 41 is that it's not about making your fantasy come true, it's allowing your fantasy to be. And just having the fantasy in and of itself can be nourishment. Like allow the creativity of the fantasy, of the imagination of that.
Mm.
And ironically, because if you want to make the fantasy come true, the 41 goes next to the 30, and the fates say, okay, well, we're doing what we're doing. You may want this, but the next step, have the fantasy, the next step is the fates come along and do their thing. And what comes after the fates is the 36, the darkening of the light, go fucking deep in, go down, get down. And then the next one is the 35, which is called progress. And so what I've been given in my inner visioning and in speaking with the fates, if in fact that's what I'm doing, as it seems to be, is that what is the most important thing for all of us right now, all of us being everyone on the planet, is to feel what is there. Because the other title of that gate is called recognition of feelings. Anyone who carries that gate needs to recognize their feelings. And what I've seen as I've gone into the awareness of the fates and with the fates is that we need to feel all the things that we didn't feel yet. And it's not just emotions. It's like I've been going into this thing in my neck and feeling the actual pain that of this tension that's been in my neck for a really, really long time. I went into this really sick feeling that I had in my belly. We talked about that a number of weeks ago. And what it takes is, yeah, let the fantasies come as they will, and then feel whatever there is to feel, physically, emotionally, psychologically, mentally, spiritually, and then go deep as you can go. You know, like what I saw with this thing. So I have this band of tension on the right side of my neck to the point where I couldn't turn my head as far that way as I could that way. So I was actually on the train one day and I was leaning back going, how do I get in there so I can feel what that's about? And I took my phone and leaned against it and it hurt so bad. But I just let myself feel the tension and the pain that was in that side of my neck. And then all of a sudden, I heard my mother's voice in my head go, look what you've done. And it was like, I had to turn my head and, you know, I'm a 3-5. I made some mistake. You know, who knows what I did? I broke something or whatever. And then I felt the emotion that went along with that tension that was in my neck was, oh, Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I didn't want to feel that. Like one of the most painful things in my whole life is making mistakes. Like I feel worthless, open ego, right? No gates at all. If I make another mistake, why don't I just die? Like, why am I even alive? And so I literally had somehow cognated that if I turn to the right, I'm going to see the mistake I made. Now, what was interesting is that about a week later, I turned my head and that tension wasn't even there. Right? So that's what I'm seeing, that in order to progress into the new world, 855, progress. In order to progress into the new world, we have to recognize our feelings, go deep into them so that we can go. Otherwise, we're just going to get stuck. And it could be, you know, for each one of us, like who's going to actually make it into the next, I'm calling it the new world. It's not a new world. It's a new consciousness field, I suppose. Whole, being whole. Like, can I be whole because I have felt the things that are there? I have felt the feelings that I didn't want to feel. I felt the pain in my body that I didn't want to feel. I've gone deep with the psychology that has inhibited me and crippled me. So that's what I've been seeing, and I've been doing it with people like we've all even done some of that in this class of like, okay, let's just go there. Instead of not going there, let's go there. Yeah. And all it takes is courage. Because I've seen this for decades, really. I can remember when I was 30 something or other, that I recognized that I had been for weeks trying not to feel something. And like one day I woke up and it was there, like I couldn't pretend I wasn't feeling it. And I thought, okay, just feel it, Tiara. Why not? And I can remember lying down on the floor in my living room and going, okay, I'm just going to feel this feeling. And it was over in like minutes. I'd spent weeks or maybe months trying not to feel this feeling because it felt bad. And then it was like it took no time hardly at all. It just took feeling.
Yeah.
It just took feeling the thing that doesn't feel good.
Mhm. It's interesting. There's, first of all, I would love it if you would make a cut in the recording of this,
Right now?
of that whole last thing that you just talked for 15
Uh-huh.
minutes or whatever it was, and make a recording just of that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do. But then I thought you
Put that
were,
on, no, put that on your
yeah,
YouTube.
that's what, so shall I stop now?